My spoiled daughter mockingly said, "Your dusty old medals are trash, Dad," and threw them in the bin, thinking I was a weak old man. I stayed calm, quietly retrieved them, but her betrayal won't go unpunished. At her luxurious gala evening, I exposed her dirty secrets. Guests gasped when she fell into hysterics. But how did we get here? Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. Sunday afternoon in San Diego should have been peaceful. The June sun was warm on my back deck, the ocean breeze carrying that familiar salt smell I'd loved for 30 years. Instead, I was sitting in my living room with my grandkids, April and Leo, trying to share something that actually mattered. The medals were spread across the coffee table: Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Army Commendation Medal, and a few others I'd earned in Vietnam. Not much to show for 2 years in hell, but they meant something. The weight of memory they carried was heavier than the medal itself. "So, Grandpa, you really jumped out of helicopters?" April asked, looking up from her phone for maybe the third time in an hour. She was 19, all done up in designer clothes like she was heading to some fashion shoot. Her fake nails clicked against her phone screen. "Repelled mostly," I said, picking up the Purple Heart. The ribbon was faded now. "Got this one outside Da Nang in '69. Shrapnel from a mortar round." "Cool," Leo interrupted, his 16-year-old fingers already back to swiping. The kid hadn't made eye contact with me in months. "Did you kill anybody? Like how many?" I set the medal down carefully. "War isn't a video game, son." "Whatever. April, check out this Mustang I'm gonna buy." He shoved his phone at his sister, completely done with my stories. I should have been used to it. 2 years of living under my roof, and they'd made it clear what they thought of the old man. But I kept trying. Stupid, maybe. The front door slammed open. My daughter Eleanor swept in like a hurricane, designer heels clicking on my hardwood floors. "Dad, we need to talk." "Hello, Eleanor," I said, staying seated. Old habit from the service. Assess before you react. She didn't sit. "I need $15,000. Today." April and Leo perked up. Money talk always got their attention. "That's a lot of cash," I said evenly. "Mind telling me what for?" "Does it matter?" Her voice went sharp. That tone she'd perfected over 2 years. "It's an emergency." I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Emergency expenses usually come with explanations. Her face flushed red. "I don't have time for an interrogation. Are you going to help your own daughter or not, after everything I've done for you?" I looked at her, really looked at her. 42 years old, and I barely recognized her anymore. Not without knowing what it's for. "Unbelievable." She started pacing, hands clenching. "You sit here in this huge house, wasting money on your old man hobbies, living in the past with war stories nobody cares about." "Eleanor, no. These dusty old medals." She gestured wildly, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "This is garbage, Dad. Trash from a war that ended 50 years ago. This is what you care about while your daughter needs help?" What happened next seemed to occur in slow motion. She swept her arm across the coffee table, gathering up the medals. April's eyes went wide. Leo actually smiled, and my daughter walked to the kitchen and dumped them into the trash can. Clang, clang, clang. "There," Eleanor said, breathing hard. "Maybe now you'll understand what actually matters." I didn't move, didn't speak. In Vietnam, I'd learned the most dangerous time to act is when emotion runs hot. So I sat there, absolutely still, reading her body language the way I used to read enemy positions. She wanted a reaction, needed one. I didn't give it to her. The silence stretched. Eleanor's breathing slowed, her expression shifting to uncertainty. "Fine," she finally snapped. "Be stubborn. But don't come crying to me when you're all alone with nothing but your precious memories." She spun toward the kids. "Come on, we're leaving." April hesitated. I saw something flicker across her face. Shame, maybe? But Leo was already up, snickering. "See ya, Gramps," he called, like his mother hadn't just trashed my service medals. The door slammed. The picture of my late wife rattled on the mantel. I sat there for 10 minutes, listening to the silence. Then I stood and walked to the kitchen. I carefully retrieved each medal from the trash. Coffee grounds and a banana peel, real dignified. I cleaned them off with a dish towel one by one. The Bronze Star ribbon had permanent coffee stains now. I arranged them back on the table. That evening I sat on my deck watching the sun set over the Pacific. brilliant oranges and purples, like the world was on fire. The ocean rolled in with the same rhythm it had for millions of years. I'd bought this house 30 years ago after retiring from my security instructor job. Saved every penny, worked overtime. I wanted to give my family something solid, a legacy. Now my family lived here rent-free, and my daughter thought my service was garbage worth throwing away. The old me would have made excuses. She's stressed. She didn't mean it. Family is family. But I wasn't the old me anymore. Something had shifted when those metals hit the trash. Something cold and clear and focused. I took a slow breath of salt air and started planning. Monday morning, I couldn't focus. Coffee tasted like metal. The newspaper sat unread. My mind kept circling back to yesterday, but not just yesterday, to everything. 2 years. That's how long Eleanor and her family had been temporarily staying with me. Her husband Quentin had some investment deal go south, or so the story went. Eleanor showed up at my door with tears in her eyes. "Just until we get back on our feet, Dad. We'd never ask if we had any other option." I'd said yes immediately. What father wouldn't? Now I forced myself to see the pattern I'd been ignoring. Month 1. Eleanor started helping with my finances, questioning my spending, my donations to veteran charities. "You're on a fixed income, Dad. You need to be more careful." Month 3. She redecorated my living room without asking. Threw out furniture my late wife, Sarah, had picked out. "This stuff is so dated. People will think you can't afford nice things." Month 6. She began opening my mail. I came home to find her at my desk, going through my bank statements. "Just trying to help organize things, Dad." Last month, she'd gotten to my bank statement first. Her eyes scanned the numbers with an expression I'd never seen before. Not concern, something calculating. "Dad, you have 200,000 in savings. Why are you being so stingy with family?" After that, the requests came weekly. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Then daily. 500 for this, 800 for that. I'd given her probably 30,000 over the past year. And Quentin. That son-in-law of mine with his designer suits, he couldn't afford, treated my house like his property. Used my truck without asking, borrowed my tools, and never returned them. Last week I found him in my garage, loading my professional-grade DeWalt tools into his car. "Just borrowing these for a job," he'd said. "Might be nice to ask first." He laughed. "Come on, Pops, we're family. What's yours is ours, right? Besides, you hardly use this stuff. Better it gets some use." The kids were worse. April treated my home like a backdrop for her social media photos, using my life as a prop for her fake online persona. When I mentioned it, bothered me. She rolled her eyes. "God, Grandpa, you're so old-fashioned. It's just Instagram." Leo had called me Boomer 3 times last week, not playfully, with real contempt. "Okay, Boomer," when I asked him to turn down his music. "Whatever, Boomer," about getting a summer job. Typical Boomer when I mentioned my service. I'd excused it all. They're young. Eleanor's stressed. Quentin's under pressure. But standing in my kitchen, watching my 68-year-old reflection in the window, I finally admitted the truth. They were using me. Systematically. For 2 years. The phone rang. "Eleanor." I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I answered. "Dad, about yesterday. I was stressed. But I still need that money. The situation hasn't changed. We'll talk about it later." "Later when? This is urgent." "Later when I decide it is." I hung up. My hands were steady. My pulse calm. In the field we had a saying. The mission starts when you stop reacting and start acting. I walked to my study and pulled out the metal box with important documents. Property deed, still in my name. Bank accounts, still mine. Life insurance, vehicle titles, investments, all still mine. But for how long? Then I remembered my reconnaissance training. Watch, wait, gather intelligence before you move. For 48 years I'd been a soldier, then a security instructor, then a consultant. I knew how to observe without being seen, how to plan without revealing intentions, how to wait for the right moment. Eleanor thought I was just some old man she could push around. She'd thrown away my medals like trash. She'd forgotten. I'd been trained to survive in hostile territory. And right now, my home had become exactly that. I opened my laptop and started making notes. Everything I'd noticed. Every red flag ignored. Times, dates, conversations, financial requests. A pattern emerged clear as enemy positions on a tactical map. They weren't planning to leave. They were planning to stay. More than that, they were planning to take control. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. Dad, we need to talk about power of attorney, just as a precaution, for your protection. You're not getting younger. And what if something happens? I stared at that message. Power of attorney. Control over my finances, my property, my life, framed as concern for my welfare. The audacity was almost impressive. I texted back, Sure, sweetheart. We can talk about that soon. But I had no intention of giving up control. What I intended to do was far more interesting. I'd spent my life defending my country, protecting others. I'd been the good soldier, the good father, the good man. Now it was time to defend my home, my legacy, my dignity. They wanted to play games with an old soldier? Fine. I pulled out a fresh notepad and started writing. Names, resources, plans within plans, the way I'd learned to operate in the field. Intelligence, allies, clear objectives. My objective was simple. Expose them, stop them, and make sure they understood that respect isn't something you throw in the trash. The morning sun climbed higher. I had work to do. The next few days I became a different kind of soldier. Not the kind who charges into battle, but the kind who watches, waits, and gathers intelligence. Reconnaissance mode. I started paying attention to details I'd been conveniently ignoring for 2 years. Quentin spent hours on his phone, always stepping outside or into the garage when he noticed me nearby. I caught fragments through open windows. By next month, the property value alone, he doesn't suspect a thing. That last one was almost amusing. I suspected everything now. Eleanor had a routine I'd never really tracked before. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she left the house around 10 in the morning, dressed to the nines, designer clothes, expensive jewelry, perfect makeup. Lunch meetings for the foundation, she'd say breezily if I asked. What foundation? I'd never pushed for details. Stupid of me, really. Tuesday morning, I decided to find out. I followed her in my truck, staying back 3 cars like I'd learned in tactical driving courses decades ago. The coffee shop on Harbor Drive, upscale place, ocean view, $20 lattes. Through the large window, I watched her meet a man in an expensive suit, mid-40s, sharp haircut, leather briefcase, animated conversation, paperwork spread between their coffee cups. A lawyer, maybe? Real estate agent? Whatever he was, they looked too comfortable for casual business. I took photos with my phone, documentation, evidence. When I got home, I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I went through my own papers with fresh, suspicious eyes. House deed, still in my name. Good. Car titles, mine. Bank accounts, mine. Life insurance policy, mine. But in the printer tray, apparently forgotten or carelessly overlooked, I found something that made my blood run cold. A draft power of attorney document, dated July 15th. Next month. Partially filled out, professional quality. My name listed as grantor. Eleanor's name as attorney in fact, with full authority over financial and legal decisions. The document wasn't signed yet, but it was ready. Prepared. Just waiting for the right moment. My hands didn't shake as I photographed every page. Steady. Professional. I put it back exactly where I found it. Wednesday afternoon, my neighbor Alonzo Richards called me over to the fence separating our properties. Alonzo was 72, a retired bank manager who'd spent 40 years at First National. Sharp mind, sharper memory. Ulysses, weird thing, he said, trimming his prize roses. Saw your daughter at First National yesterday morning. She was having quite the discussion with Tom Patterson. He's the branch manager now. That so? I kept my voice casual. Yeah, pretty heated too. I was in line for the teller, couldn't help but overhear. Something about needing access to account information. Tom kept saying privacy policies, client confidentiality. Eleanor kept insisting she was concerned about her father's finances, that you might not be managing things properly. He looked at me over his reading glasses. Thought you should know. Appreciate it, Alonzo. Really. Also, he paused, shears in midair. I was working in my front yard Sunday afternoon. Heard your son-in-law on his phone. He was pacing by his car, talking pretty loud. Something about selling an old house on the coast in a couple months. Called it a big payday. Old house on the coast. My house. The one I'd bought 30 years ago with overtime shifts and careful savings. Thanks, Alonzo. I mean it. He nodded slowly. I saw a lot of this kind of thing in my banking days, Ulysses. Elder financial abuse. It's more common than people think. Just be careful, friend. I will. That evening I sat on my deck with a beer, a rare indulgence, and watched the sun set over the Pacific. The pieces were clicking into place like coordinates on a tactical map. They weren't just using me for free rent and pocket money. They were planning to take everything. The house, probably worth $850,000 in today's San Diego market. My savings, $200,000. My pension, the whole legacy I'd spent a lifetime building, and they thought I was too old, too trusting, too beaten down to stop them. I took a long drink and smiled at the ocean, watching the waves roll in. They were wrong. Thursday morning, Eleanor cornered me in the kitchen while I was making my morning coffee. Dad, we really need to talk about that power of attorney. It's just sensible planning. What if you get sick? What if something happens and you can't make decisions for yourself? I'm 68, not 90, I said, keeping my tone mild. I think I've got a few good years left in me. Don't be difficult about this. This is for your protection, for your own good. I'll think about it. Her jaw tightened, a muscle twitching near her temple. That flash of anger she could barely control anymore. You're being completely unreasonable. Maybe, but it's my unreasonable to be. She stormed out, heels clicking like gunfire on my hardwood floor. Quentin tried a different approach Friday morning, all smiles and buddy-buddy. Hey, Pops, been meaning to talk to you about investment opportunities. With your savings, we could really make something happen. I've got connections, insider knowledge on some deals that are about to pop. We could triple your money in 6 months. I'm good, Quentin. Come on, don't you want to see that money grow? Leave a real legacy for the grandkids instead of letting it sit in some boring savings account. I said I'm good. The smile dropped from his face like a mask. Your call, old man. Just trying to help family here. But I was already walking away, mentally noting the edge in his voice, the flash of irritation in his eyes. The mask was slipping more often now. Good. Angry people make mistakes. Impatient people get careless. I realized they were getting desperate. The pressure was increasing, which meant their timeline was accelerating. Something was forcing their hand. Good. Pressure makes people careless, makes them reveal things they'd otherwise keep carefully hidden. That weekend I made calls, set up appointments, started building my own operation, my own counteroffensive. Because if there's one thing 48 years of military and security work had taught me, it's this. The best defense is a well-planned offense. And I was just getting started. Monday morning, I drove to a bank across town, not First National, where Eleanor had been snooping. I rented a safety deposit box and transferred my most important documents. Original deed, birth certificate, military records, financial statements, everything that proved who I was and what I owned. The bank manager, a woman in her 50s, watched me work. Security concerns, Mr. Morrison? Let's call it precautionary measures, I said. She nodded, understanding more than I said. Smart man. Next stop, Home Depot. I told Quentin I was upgrading the security system after reading about neighborhood break-ins. He barely looked up from his phone. The kid who installed it was 22, eager and thorough. These cameras are motion-activated, he explained. Crystal clear video, cloud backup. You can access everything from your phone. Perfect. By Tuesday evening, I had coverage of every common area. Living room, kitchen, garage, front entrance, all discreetly placed, all perfectly legal in my own home. Wednesday morning, I got my first catch. I was in my study, the one room they avoided because it had nothing valuable, watching the live feed on my tablet. Eleanor and Quentin in the living room, thinking they were alone. He's being stubborn about the power of attorney, Eleanor said, pacing. So we push harder. Quentin was sprawled on my couch, like he owned it. The old man's tough, but he won't last. We just need to wait him out or apply more pressure. He's 68, Quentin. Why does he need this huge house? We deserve this more than he does. We have a family to think about, a future to build. Exactly. And once we get control, we can... I stopped the recording. I had enough. My hands were steady as I saved the file, backed it up to 3 different locations. Evidence. That's what I was building. A case, piece by piece. Thursday, I overheard April on the phone in the kitchen. Yeah, Grandpa's loaded. Mom says once we get the house, I can finally get that Mercedes I want. Friday, Leo told his friend, my grandpa's basically ancient. Mom says he's going to sign everything over soon because he's getting senile or whatever. Senile. Right. Saturday morning, I made the call I'd been putting off. Catherine Westbrook, property attorney. Her office was in downtown San Diego. Glass and steel and expensive hourly rates, but worth every penny. Mr. Morrison, she said, shaking my hand. Sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. What can I do for you? I laid it out. 2 years of escalating control. Financial manipulation. Plans to sell my property. The power of attorney document I'd found. She listened, taking notes, her expression growing grimmer. Do you have documentation? I pulled out my phone, showed her the photos, the video recordings, the timeline I'd created. Good, she said. This is good. You're thinking clearly, acting rationally. That matters for what comes next. Which is? First, we create an ironclad will, everything clearly designated. Second, we establish a revocable living trust. You maintain control, but it protects your assets from manipulation. Third, we prepare eviction paperwork. Eviction. They're living in your home under an informal arrangement. You have every right to terminate that arrangement, especially given the evidence of exploitation. She looked at me directly. Do you want them gone? I thought about Eleanor throwing my medals in the trash, April laughing, Quentin using my tools without asking, 2 years of being treated like an inconvenient ATM. Yes, I said, I want them gone. Then we'll make it happen, legally, properly, and permanently. We spent 3 hours going over details. Cost, aimed $5,000 for immediate services. I paid without hesitation. Walking out of that office, I felt different, lighter, like I'd finally stopped retreating and started advancing. Sunday evening, I was organizing papers in my study when I found something else, a brochure. Veterans Support Foundation, Helping Our Heroes. Eleanor's smiling face on the cover, standing in front of a banner with an American flag. I'd never heard of this foundation. I opened my laptop and searched. The website was polished, professional. Photos of Eleanor at charity events. Testimonials from grateful veterans I didn't recognize. A donation button prominent on every page. Founded by Eleanor Clark to honor her veteran father and support those who served. Honor her veteran father. The irony was almost funny. I dug deeper. Tax filings were public record for charities. I found the foundation's 990 form from last year. Revenue, $340,000. Expenses, programs, and services, $45,000. Administrative costs, $295,000. Administrative costs. I knew what that meant. Salaries, consulting fees, travel expenses. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. She'd been running a charity scam, using my service, my sacrifice, as a prop to collect money she was pocketing. My phone buzzed. Eleanor, family dinner tonight, 6 p.m., don't be late. I looked at the message, at the foundation website, at the video files on my computer. I texted back, I'll be there. Because now I understood something important. This wasn't just about the house. It was bigger, deeper, and that meant my response needed to be precise. In reconnaissance, we called it target assessment, understanding the full scope of the enemy position before you strike. I was almost done assessing. Soon, very soon, it would be time to strike. Monday morning, July 7th. Quentin left early for what he called a business meeting, probably another scheme that would go nowhere. Eleanor took the kids shopping. The house was empty. Perfect timing. I'd been waiting for this opportunity. Catherine Westbrook, my property attorney, had suggested I document everything I could find. Evidence, she'd said. The more concrete proof you have, the stronger your position. Quentin had converted my guest room into his office. I'd never been invited in. Now, with the house to myself, I walked in like I owned the place, which legally I did. The desk was a mess, papers scattered everywhere, coffee-stained folders, a laptop sitting open in sleep mode. I started with the filing cabinet. Third drawer down, I found a cardboard box labeled VF Foundation Financial. VF, Veterans Foundation, Eleanor's charity that I'd discovered online. I pulled the box out and sat in Quentin's chair. My hands were steady as I opened it. The first document was a bank statement for Veterans Support Foundation. 3 years of monthly statements. I scanned the deposits. $5,000 here, $10,000 there, $25,000 from someone named Patricia Goldstein. Donations adding up to over $340,000 in the last year alone. The expenses told a different story. Program services, $45,000. Administrative costs, $295,000. I'd seen enough charity scams in my security days to recognize the pattern. Administrative costs were code for money we pocketed. I kept digging. Credit card statements in Eleanor's name, paid from the foundation account. A $4,000 charge at Nordstrom. $8,500 at a jewelry store in La Jolla. A $12,000 payment to Paradise Resort, Maui. My daughter had been funding her lifestyle with money meant for veterans. Money from people who thought they were helping soldiers like me. The irony was so dark, I almost laughed. I found emails next. Correspondence with donors. A woman named Margaret Chen had written, "My father served in Korea. I'm honored to support your work helping our heroes." Eleanor's response, "Your generosity changes lives every day." Change lives, right. Changed her bank account, anyway. There were draft social media posts, too. Photos of Eleanor posing with fake smiles in front of banners with American flags and eagles. Captions about honoring our brave veterans and supporting those who sacrificed for our freedom. My sacrifice, being used as a marketing tool for fraud. I pulled out my phone and photographed everything. Every statement, every receipt, every email. My phone's memory filled up, so I uploaded them to the cloud and kept shooting. At the bottom of the box, I found something that made my jaw clench. A glossy invitation, embossed lettering, expensive paper. Veterans Support Foundation Gala Evening. Saturday, September 27th, 2025. The Grand Pacific Hotel, San Diego. Join us for an evening celebrating our heroes. Special announcement. New $500,000 initiative. September 27th. Less than 3 months away. A $500,000 initiative. I could only imagine what that meant. Probably another fake program she'd use to collect donations and fund her lifestyle. I photographed the invitation, then kept searching. In a folder marked PR, I found the speech Eleanor planned to give. Handwritten notes in her looping script. My father, a Vietnam veteran, taught me the true meaning of service and sacrifice. His example inspired me to create this foundation, to give back to those who gave everything for our country. Tonight, we honor him and all our brave veterans. She was going to use me, stand up there in her designer dress, with her stolen money, and tell lies about how much she respected me and my service, the same daughter who'd thrown my medals in the trash 3 weeks ago. I sat back in the chair, staring at those words. My hands wanted to shake, but I wouldn't let them. Instead, I felt something cold and clear settle in my chest. She'd handed me the perfect opportunity. A public event, press coverage, donors who'd been deceived, local officials who'd probably attend, all gathered in one place while Eleanor performed her fraud for maximum exposure. She wanted a gala? I'd give her one she'd never forget. I spent the next hour making copies of every relevant document. I put the originals back exactly as I'd found them, making sure nothing looked disturbed. An old reconnaissance trick. Gather intelligence without revealing you've been there. By the time I heard Eleanor's car in the driveway, I was in my room, uploading the last files to a secure backup drive. That evening at dinner, Eleanor was unusually chatty. "Dad, I wanted to tell you about the charity gala I'm organizing in September. It's going to be quite the event." "That so?" I cut my chicken, keeping my voice neutral. "Yes, the Veterans Support Foundation, my charity. We're doing incredible work helping veterans." She smiled, that bright, fake smile. "You should be proud. I'm doing this because of you, you know. Because of your service." I looked at her, really looked at her. The lies came so easily to her now. "Sounds nice," I said. "You could come if you want. Though it's pretty formal, black tie, might not be your scene." Translation, please don't show up and embarrass me. "I'll think about it," I said. She looked relieved. "Well, no pressure. I know these things aren't really your style." After dinner, I went to my study and pulled out a notebook, started making a plan. Lists, timelines, people I'd need to contact, evidence I'd need to prepare. September 27th was exactly 11 weeks away. That gave me 11 weeks to prepare, to build an airtight case, to make sure when I struck, it would count. In Vietnam, we had a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I had time, and I intended to use every second of it. Tuesday morning, I called Catherine Westbrook. I need a different kind of help now, a referral. What kind of referral? Her voice was professional, cautious, a forensic accountant, someone who can audit a charity and document financial fraud. Silence for 3 seconds. I see. This is about your daughter's foundation? Yes. I know someone. Daniel Hawks. Former IRS investigator, now does private auditing. Thorough, discreet, and his work holds up in court. Send me his contact information. Wednesday, I met Daniel Hawks in his office in downtown San Diego. He was 48, thin, balding, with glasses that magnified his eyes slightly. He reminded me of an accountant from a movie, which made sense given his profession. I laid out the documents I'd copied. Bank statements, credit card bills, emails, the gala invitation. He studied them in silence for 20 minutes, occasionally making notes. Finally, he looked up. This is textbook charity fraud, money laundering through a nonprofit. If what you're showing me is accurate, and I'll need to verify everything, your daughter and her husband could face serious criminal charges. How serious? Federal wire fraud, tax evasion, potentially RICO charges if we can show a pattern. We're talking years in prison, not months. Plus restitution to donors, fines, permanent bond from running any charitable organization. Good, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Most fathers wouldn't want their daughters facing prison time. Most daughters don't steal from veterans while living rent-free in their father's house. He nodded slowly. Fair point. What do you need from me? A complete audit. Every transaction documented, every violation cataloged. A report that will stand up to scrutiny from law enforcement and the media. The media? This is going public, September 27th, at their gala. I want maximum exposure. A small smile crossed his face. That's unconventional, but effective. I'll need access to the Foundation's tax filings. Those are public record, and about 2 weeks to do this properly. My fee is $8,000 for a comprehensive audit. I'd spent $5,000 on Catherine already. Now $8,000 more. My savings were taking a hit, down to $187,000 from the original $200,000. But some things were worth the cost. Done, I said. That Friday I made another call. This one was harder. Clara Stanford and I went back 40 years. We'd met at a veterans advocacy meeting in 1995, both young and angry about how the government treated Vietnam vets. She'd become an investigative journalist. I'd gone into private security. We'd stayed in touch, Christmas cards and occasional lunches. She picked up on the second ring. Ulysses Morrison, it's been 6 months. You only call when you need something. You're right, I need something. I knew it. What kind of trouble are you in? Not in. Making. I told her everything. The systematic exploitation, the power of attorney scheme, the charity fraud. She listened without interrupting. A journalist's skill. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. And you want me to write about it? I want you to investigate it. Properly. Talk to donors who were deceived. Document the fraud. Then break the story at the gala, September 27th. That's ambitious and potentially litigious. Daniel Hawks is doing a forensic audit. Everything will be documented. This isn't speculation, it's fact. Another pause. I'd need exclusive rights to the story. First publication. You'll have it. And I'll need to verify everything independently. I'm not just going to take your word for it, even though we're friends. I wouldn't expect you to. All right. Send me what you have. I'll start digging. 2 weeks later, Catherine called me into her office again. I prepared a new will for you, as we discussed. Everything goes to legitimate veterans organizations. The Wounded Warrior Project, the VA Medical Center Foundation, the San Diego Veterans Coalition. I signed it, watched her notarize it. Eleanor would get nothing. Not the house, not the savings, not a single medal. There's something else, Catherine said. Based on what you've told me about the living situation, I can prepare eviction paperwork. You have grounds. They were supposed to stay temporarily. It's been 2 years. And you have evidence of exploitation and abuse of trust. Prepare it, I said, but don't file yet. I want the timing coordinated with the gala. You're really going scorched earth on this. They threw my service medals in the trash. They're stealing from people who want to help veterans. They're trying to take my house. I looked at her. How much mercy do they deserve? She didn't answer, just nodded and made a note. August was brutal. Eleanor ramped up the pressure. Dad, about that power of attorney. It's really important we get this done soon. Still thinking about it. You're being selfish. What if something happens to you? What if you have a stroke? Or I'm 68, Eleanor, not on my deathbed. She'd storm off, frustrated, then try again the next week. Different approach, same goal. Quentin tried too, more subtle. Pops, you should really consider consolidating your assets. I know a great financial advisor who could help maximize your returns. I'm good with my current setup. The mask slipped more often now. Flashes of anger, impatience. They knew time was running out, though they didn't know why. I just smiled and waited. Daniel Hawkes delivered his report August 15th. 93 pages of documented fraud. Every transaction traced, every violation noted. It was beautiful in its thoroughness. Clara called the same week. I've interviewed 8 donors. All of them thought their money was going to help veterans. One woman's son died in Afghanistan. She donated $20,000 because Eleanor told her it would fund PTSD counseling. It went to a luxury vacation. Can you prove it? I have the receipts. Hawaii, October 2023. Same dates the foundation showed a $20,000 program expense. Good. September 1st. 26 days until the gala. Everything was in place. Catherine had the eviction paperwork ready. Daniel had his audit report. Clara had her investigative article. I had copies of everything on 3 different backup drives. The only question left was execution, and for that, I had a plan. September 3rd. The cameras I'd installed were paying dividends. I was in my study, tablet in hand, scrolling through footage from yesterday. Eleanor in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, pacing. Michelle, I'm telling you, the old fool has no idea. Her voice was crystal clear. After the gala, I'll have raised enough money to finally sell this dump and buy that La Jolla mansion. $3 million, but worth it. My house? My dump? She laughed. No, he won't figure it out. He's too busy being a martyr about his war stories. By the time he realizes what's happening, I'll own everything. I saved the file, backed it up, added it to the growing collection. September 5th brought another gem. Quentin in the garage on his phone with someone called Marcus. Listen, if the old man won't sign voluntarily, we have options. Facilities, nice ones where we can place him. Memory care, assisted living. We just need a doctor to say he's not competent. My hand tightened on the tablet. No, he's sharp. That's the problem. But at 68, who's going to question it? Once he's in a facility, we handle the house sale. Everything. A pause. We just need to finalize that power of attorney. Except I hadn't signed anything. They planned to forge it. I saved that recording too. September 8th, Eleanor called someone named Patricia. Probably a gala sponsor. Patricia, darling, I'm so excited for you to meet my father at the gala. He's the inspiration for everything I do. Such a hero. I taught her nothing but entitlement, apparently. Yes, the new initiative is ambitious. $500,000 for PTSD counseling programs. She paused. Oh, he won't attend. His health, you know. He tires easily. My health was fine. She just didn't want me contradicting her lies. By September 10th, I had 17 recordings. Eleanor discussing the mansion. Quentin about forging documents. April complaining to a friend. Grandpa's taking forever to die, and we need his money now. Even Leo got caught. My grandpa's rich, but too cheap to share. My mom's going to get it all soon. Children raised by vipers. Becoming vipers. September 12th, I made my next move. Eleanor's gala program showed her speaking at 7:30 p.m. Keynote address, honoring our heroes. 20 minutes about fake charity work, announcing the fake $500,000 program, collecting donations from trusting people. Unless I stopped her. I emailed Clara Stanford, attaching the recordings. Clara, these are from the past 2 weeks. The September 5th conversation about forging my signature is particularly interesting. Also attached, Eleanor's speech draft. Note the references to her supportive father who inspired her work. Cross-reference with your donor interviews. Her response, Ulysses, this is gold, but also possibly criminal conspiracy. Have you considered the police? I wrote back, "After the gala? Maximum impact." She replied, "You're playing a dangerous game." "I learned from the best," I typed. "The Viet Cong." September 13th. Eleanor cornered me in the kitchen. "Dad, I got a notice from your attorney. An eviction filing?" I'd been waiting for this. "That's right," I said, pouring coffee. "You're trying to evict us? Your own family?" "You've been here 2 years. It was temporary." "We have nowhere to go." "You'll figure it out. I hear there's a nice mansion in La Jolla. 3 million. Her face went white. "How did you—" "I'm old, Eleanor, not deaf." She recovered quickly. Tears welled up. The same trick since childhood. "Dad, please. We're family." "Like we worked out the power of attorney you're planning to forge?" The tears stopped. The mask fell. "You've been spying on us," she hissed. "In my own house? That's existing, not spying. You can't evict us. We'll fight it." "Please do. I'd enjoy discovery. All those financial records becoming public. Your charity's tax filings under scrutiny," she calculated, trying to figure what I knew. "The gala is in 2 weeks," she said coldly. "Don't you dare ruin it." "Wouldn't dream of it." Quentin tried intimidation that evening. "You're making a mistake, old man. We have rights. You'll be tied up in court for years." "Maybe. But you'll still be out, eventually. Might want to start packing." His face flushed red. For a second I thought he might swing at me. But I stood my ground, and whatever he saw in my eyes made him back down. Bullies always fold when you don't flinch. September 15th. The court date was set. October 5th. 1 week after the gala. Perfect timing. That evening my phone buzzed. Daniel Hawks. "Final audit complete. 127 violations documented. Prosecutable. They're going to prison." Clara. "Article ready. Just say when." Catherine. "Eviction papers filed. Game on." I looked at my medals on the table beside me. 27 days until the gala. 27 days until Eleanor's perfect world collapsed. I smiled at the ocean and raised my beer. Checkmate was coming. September 15th. Catherine Westbrook's office, 9 a.m. She slid a folder across her desk. Eviction filing complete with evidence. Photos of the power of attorney draft. Recordings. Documentation of the verbal agreement. I flipped through it. Professional. Thorough. Devastating. "Court date is October 5th, 8 days after the gala," she said. "Judge Morrison is handling it. She's tough on family exploitation cases. Our chances? 95%. They have no lease, and you have clear evidence of bad faith. They'll be out within 30 days of judgment." "Good. There's more." She pulled out another document. "I filed a formal complaint with the California Attorney General's office, Charitable Trusts section. Attached Daniel's audit. Will they investigate?" "Already are. An investigator named Sarah Chen is assigned. She'll be at the gala. Observing." Perfect. That afternoon I met Clara and Daniel at a coffee shop in North Park, far from prying eyes. Daniel spread printouts across the table. $340,000 in donations over 3 years. $295,000 classified as administrative costs. Went directly to personal accounts. Credit cards show luxury purchases, vacations, jewelry. Only $45,000 in legitimate expenses to maintain appearances. Clara was taking notes. "I've interviewed 12 donors. Most are elderly veterans or families. One woman donated her husband's life insurance, $50,000, for veteran housing. Eleanor spent it on Paris." My jaw clenched. "Proof? Receipts? Credit cards? Travel records? All from foundation accounts during the same month," Daniel continued. "The $500,000 new initiative Eleanor's announcing. There's no program, no plan, just a number to generate donations." "Real-time fraud," I said, "essentially. And we'll have it on record, with witnesses and media present." Clara leaned forward. "Ulysses, are you sure? Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Your daughter faces criminal charges, possibly years in prison." I thought about the medals in trash, the forged signature plans, the widow's grief, money funding, Paris. "I'm sure." "All right." She pulled out her phone. "My editor's holding space for September 28th, day after the gala. Front page. I need a statement from you." I considered. "Print this. I served my country for 2 years in Vietnam. I thought I'd taught my daughter the meaning of honor and service. I was wrong. But it's never too late to stand up for what's right, even when it means standing against family. She wrote it down. That's good. Daniel cleared his throat. The AG's office wants coordination. They'll have investigators at the gala, but need to know when you're making your move. 7:45 p.m., I said, 15 minutes into Eleanor's speech, right after she announces the fake initiative. Dramatic, Clara said. Strategic. Maximum witnesses. She'll have just lied to 200 people about a $500,000 program. Then I present proof it's fraud. September 20th. Final coordination. Catherine brought eviction paperwork. Daniel brought his bound audit report. Clara brought her article draft. I brought everything. Recordings, documents, donor statements, Eleanor's emails. If Eleanor suspects what's coming, she might cancel, Catherine warned, or destroy records. She won't suspect, I said. She thinks I'm a harmless old man successfully intimidated by the eviction filing. You sure? Eleanor had upped her dress budget to $8,000, hired photographers, printed 500 programs. She's too arrogant. To her, I'm just a stubborn fool who'll lose anyway. September 22nd, I took my dress uniform to the cleaners. The woman behind the counter looked at it with respect. Vietnam service? 1968 to 1970. My father was there too. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. She handled it carefully. Special occasion? A settling of accounts. September 24th, 3 days before the gala. Eleanor was a tornado, yelling at caterers, screaming at April about flowers, snapping at Quentin about seating. Dad, if you get in my way this week, you'll what? She stopped, breathing hard. Just stay out of my way. Happy to. That evening, Quentin tried conciliation. Look, Pops, about the eviction. Maybe we got off wrong. After the gala, we can talk like adults. Sure. He looked relieved. And hey, Eleanor would love if you came to the gala. You should see her in her element. She's built something special. I'll think about it. Such a good liar. September 26th. Tomorrow was the day. I laid everything out. Dress uniform cleaned and pressed, medals polished, 3 backup drives, printed documents, phone fully charged. Daniel would be at the gala with his audit, Clara with her article. Catherine confirmed AG investigators would attend. Everything synchronized. I opened my laptop and reviewed the plan. Every detail accounted for. Then I pulled out a photo. My unit in Vietnam, 1969. 23 young men. 10 didn't make it home. I'd survived for a reason. Lived with honor. Built something. And I wasn't letting anyone take that with lies and fraud. Tomorrow, Eleanor would learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. Tomorrow, the truth came out. I put the photo away and went to bed early. Big day ahead. September 26th, the day before the gala. The house was chaos. Eleanor's voice echoed through every room, sharp as breaking glass. Those flowers are peach, not coral. I specifically said coral. She was on her phone, pacing the living room in designer athleisure that probably cost more than my monthly pension. No, I don't care if they have to fly them in from Ecuador. Fix it! I sat in my usual chair, reading the newspaper, or pretending to. And the lighting, she spun toward Quentin, who was nursing what looked like his third morning drink. Did you confirm the lighting designer understands the vision? I need dramatic, not theatrical. There's a difference. It's handled, honey, he said, barely looking up from his phone. It better be. This has to be perfect. Perfect. April wandered through, eyes glued to her screen. Mom, what time tomorrow do I need to be ready for photos? 5. Hair and makeup at 3. Ugh, so early. Leo appeared from the garage, tracking dirt across my floor. Can I bring Marcus to the gala? No, Eleanor snapped. This is a sophisticated charity event, not a teenage hangout. He shrugged and disappeared back outside. Eleanor's phone rang again. She answered without checking. What now? A pause. No, absolutely not. The ice sculpture stays. I don't care if it's cliché, it makes a statement. I turned a page of my newspaper. She noticed me. Her eyes narrowed. Dad? She ended the call. You're in my way. I'm sitting in my chair, in my living room. You know what I mean. Tomorrow night, don't come to the gala. I looked up calm. Wasn't planning on it. Good. Because honestly, you'd just embarrass me. You'd show up in some old suit, probably talk about Vietnam to people who don't care, make everything awkward. She waved her hand dismissively. You'd look like a beggar, and this event is about elegance and success. Understood, I said. She seemed surprised by my easy agreement, suspicious even. Really? You're not going to argue? Why would I? It's your event, your show. Exactly. She relaxed slightly. Thank you for being reasonable for once. I went back to my newspaper. That afternoon I stayed out of her way. Let her run around like a general commanding troops before battle. She had no idea the real battle was coming. Around 6 I heard her in her room, rehearsing her speech. The door was cracked open. My father, a true American hero, taught me the meaning of service and sacrifice. Her voice was theatrical, practiced. His example inspired me to create this foundation, to give back to those who gave everything for our freedom. Tonight, we honor him and all our brave veterans. I walked past. She didn't notice. Dinner was tense. Eleanor picked at a salad, too stressed to eat. Quentin was on his 4th drink, getting louder. Tomorrow we hit the jackpot, baby, he said, raising his glass. $500,000 in pledges, easy, maybe more. Don't jinx it, Eleanor hissed. I'm not. I'm celebrating. The old man's house alone will net us. Not now, Quentin. But he was too drunk to stop. Come on. After tomorrow, we're set. Sell this place, buy the La Jolla mansion, live like we deserve. No more pretending to care about veterans, or any of this charity nonsense. April giggled. Mom, can I get a new car when we sell the house? We'll see, Eleanor said, glancing at me. I kept eating my pot roast. Leo leaned back in his chair. How much is Grandpa's house worth, anyway? Enough, Quentin said. More than enough for all of us. I finished my meal in silence, stood up. Excuse me? Where are you going? Eleanor asked. To bed. Big day tomorrow. She looked confused. But you're not coming to the gala. I meant for you. Big day for you. I went to my room and closed the door. I could hear them downstairs. Quentin's laugh. Eleanor's rehearsed speech starting again. April and Leo arguing about something trivial. I opened my closet and pulled out my dress uniform. Army Class A's, the uniform I'd worn for ceremonies and formal occasions, pressed and ready. The medals were laid out on my desk. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal with 3 bronze stars. Each one clean, polished, significant. I attached them carefully to the uniform. Muscle memory from 50 years ago. On my desk sat 3 folders. Red, blue, and green. Red, Daniel's complete audit report. 127 violations. Page after page of documented theft. Blue, Clara's article, ready to publish. Interviews with defrauded donors. Timeline of the fraud. Photos of Eleanor's luxury purchases charged to the foundation. Green, my own documentation. Recordings. Bank statements. The power of attorney they'd planned to forge. Everything. I checked my phone. Messages waiting. Daniel. In position, front row, right side. Audit report ready. Clara. Confirmed. Media credentials approved. 3 other journalists briefed. Catherine. AG investigators confirmed attendance. Sarah Chen and Michael Torres. They know the timeline. I texted back to each. 7:45 p.m. After she announces the $500,000 initiative. Then I sat on my bed and looked at the photo from Vietnam. Those young men, those lost friends. Tomorrow wasn't just about Eleanor. It was about every veteran she'd exploited, every donor she'd lied to, every person who'd trusted her fake compassion. Tomorrow was about proving that honor still mattered. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. I had preparations to make. Downstairs I heard champagne corks popping, laughter, celebration. They had no idea. I lay back and closed my eyes. Last night in this house with them. By this time next week, the eviction would be in process. Eleanor would be facing charges. Quentin would be scrambling for lawyers. And I'd be sitting on my deck, watching the ocean with my medals back where they belonged. I smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow. September 27th, 7:15 p.m. The Grand Pacific Hotel ballroom glittered like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, 200 guests in formal wear, champagne glasses in hand. I stood in the lobby, watching through the doorway. My dress uniform felt right. The weight of the medals on my chest felt right. Eleanor was on stage, radiant in a diamond-studded gown. Behind her, massive banners. Veterans Support Foundation, honoring our heroes. The irony was breathtaking. Ladies and gentlemen, she said into the microphone, her voice warm and practiced, thank you for joining us tonight. Your generosity changes lives. Your compassion honors those who served. Applause rippled through the room. I saw Daniel in the front row, his audit report in a leather folder. Clara near the back with the other journalists, camera ready. Two people I didn't recognize sitting near the exit. The AG investigators, probably. Eleanor continued. My father, a Vietnam veteran, taught me what it means to serve. His sacrifice inspired everything you see here tonight. More applause. Some people were actually wiping tears. And tonight, I'm thrilled to announce our biggest initiative yet, a $500,000 program for PTSD counseling and veteran housing support. The crowd erupted. Standing ovation, phones out, recording, local news cameras rolling. Perfect. I walked toward the ballroom doors. The coordinator tried to stop me. Sir, do you have a ticket? I pointed to my medals. Vietnam veteran, I think I'm at the right event. Her expression changed instantly. Oh, of course, please, welcome. The doors opened. I walked in. The applause was still going as I moved down the center aisle. People noticed the uniform first, then the medals. A few started clapping for me instead of Eleanor. Eleanor's smile froze when she saw me. Her face went white, then red, then white again, but she was trapped. Everyone was watching. She had to maintain the facade. Ladies and gentlemen, she recovered, voice strained. My father, Ulysses Morrison. What a surprise. The crowd applauded louder. Speech! Speech! I reached the stage, climbed the 3 steps, took the microphone from Eleanor's trembling hand. Thank you, I said calmly. Thank you for coming out tonight to support veterans. Your generosity is appreciated, which is why I need to tell you the truth about this foundation. Confused silence. Over the past 3 years, this organization has collected over $340,000 in donations. You were told this money would help veterans with PTSD, housing, and support services. I paused. Let it sink in. That was a lie. Gasps. Murmurs. Eleanor's mouth opened. Dad, what are you... I kept going. Of that money, only $45,000 went to any legitimate programs. The rest, $295,000, was stolen, spent on luxury vacations, designer clothes, jewelry, personal expenses charged to this foundation. That's insane, Eleanor shouted. This is slander. He's senile. He doesn't know what he's saying. Daniel Hawks, I called out. Would you please share your findings? Daniel stood, holding up his audit report. I'm a forensic accountant, formerly with the IRS. I've completed a comprehensive audit of the Veteran Support Foundation. Mr. Morrison's statements are accurate. This is systematic charity fraud. The room exploded, shouting, cameras flashing, people standing. Clara Stanford, I continued, San Diego Tribune. Would you like to add anything? Clara stood. I've interviewed 12 donors who gave money to this foundation believing it would help veterans. Instead, their money funded trips to Paris, purchased a $40,000 car, and paid for luxury jewelry. I have receipts. Eleanor was shaking. No, you're all lying. This is a conspiracy. Is it? I looked at her. Should we talk about the widow who donated $50,000 from her husband's life insurance? Or how you spent that money on a vacation the same month? Quentin was already moving toward the exit, but the AG investigators were there, blocking his path. Mr. and Mrs. Clark, one of them announced, showing credentials. California Attorney General's office. We need you to stay. We have questions about your foundation's financial practices. The room erupted again, donors shouting for their money back, news cameras capturing every second, security confused about who to help. Eleanor collapsed into a chair, her perfect facade crumbling, mascara running, hands shaking. Dad, please don't do this. I walked over to her, knelt down so we were eye level. The room went quiet, everyone watching. Respect isn't thrown in the trash, Eleanor, I said softly. Firmly, but it can be lost forever. I stood, walked toward the exit. The crowd parted. Behind me, chaos. Eleanor sobbing, Quentin arguing with investigators, donors demanding answers, cameras recording the spectacular collapse. I stepped outside into the cool San Diego night, breathed deep. It was done. 1 week later, I sat on my deck watching the sunset. The ocean rolled in with its eternal rhythm. My medals sat on the table beside me, back where they belonged. The eviction had been granted. Eleanor and her family had 30 days to leave. Criminal charges had been filed. Fraud, tax evasion, wire fraud. The AG was talking about 3 to 5 years for each of them. My phone buzzed. Clara's article had won an award. Daniel's audit was being used as a training example for fraud detection. Catherine had gotten 3 new clients from the publicity. April and Leo would stay with Quentin's brother. Maybe they'd learn something from this. Probably not. I took a sip of beer and watched a pelican dive into the waves. Justice wasn't always pretty. Sometimes it was messy, public, painful. But it was necessary. The sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in oranges and purples. I raised my beer toward the ocean. To honor, I said quietly, and to everyone who still believes in it. The waves answered with their ageless rhythm. I was home. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.